Well, I didn't think I'd be talking more about the Philadelphia Phillies. Literally after a few days, I did another video ranting about them, how about they weren't going to do any more moves this offseason because that's what Dave Dombrowski basically told us. And then out of the blue, nowhere on Sunday morning before the Eagles-Commanders game, the Phillies made a trade to bolster their starting rotation, just make it even more deeper, and they acquire Jesus Luzardo from the Miami Marlins for a couple of prospects. And overall, with the trade, I like the trade. I definitely do. It definitely does bolster your rotation. It gives you one of the more deeper rotations in baseball. And granted, the Phillies' rotation was still one of the tops in baseball regarding, just ignoring Taiwan Walker's side of everything there. They still had a top rotation. You still have Zach Wheeler, who's going to be at the top of his game. You still have Aaron Nola. You still have Christopher Sanchez, who broke out last season and will hopefully continue the way that he has been pitching. Ranger Suarez, and he is going into a contract year, and I have no idea what this means for Ranger Suarez, if this means that the Phillies are more likely to trade him either at some point this offseason or at some point in the regular season, or he just plays out the rest of his contract here in Philadelphia and he goes and hits the open market because Ranger Suarez now, I believe, is a Scott Boras client, so most likely he is going to be hitting the open market. I'm not sure what the telltales there for Ranger, but you add Jesus Luzardo to this rotation. You now have a very deep starting five. I would assume this means that Taiwan Walker is not going to be in the starting rotation next season. So I'm not sure what's going to happen from that perspective. But it is a good trade by Dave Dombrowski and the Phillies. But does this really regard or disregard every little thing that they haven't done yet this offseason or just the little minor moves that they have done? No, because I still don't believe they have done much, and we'll definitely get into it as we continue here. But before we continue here, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTP Sports. And as we're talking about for the Phillies for the 1500th time this month, I definitely recommend you hitting that subscribe button if you haven't hit that yet. It'll do me a great deal of service with the YouTube algorithm. We just surpassed 1,000 subscribers and looking to continue that number and increase it even more. You can also drop a like. You can also leave a comment in the comment section down below. I'd like to interact with you guys down there. You can also use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. And you can also follow me over at TikTok and Instagram for reels and shorts and all that good stuff. So, Philadelphia Phillies, like I said, I did not expect to be making another video this month before Christmas because Dave Dombrowski the other day, basically sounded like the Phillies were not going to be making any, major moves. And would you consider this trade a major move? Yes and no. I can see yes and no, but it's more of a, Jesus Luzardo last year with the Miami Marlins. He dealt with injuries, but before that, he had two really good years in their starting rotation. I believe he was the number one starter in the wild card round against the Phillies last year, actually, or 2023, actually. And he definitely has been giving the Phillies some issues during his time in Miami when, pitching against us. So, and he has proven to be a capable starter in Major League Baseball. Like I said, he had two really good years in Miami before his injury-riddled season last year. So, he's 27 years old. He's been in the league since 2019. Started with the Oakland Athletics, then got traded over to Miami and everything there. So we'll go back to since his 2022 season at 24 years old. He had a 3.32 ERA in 18 starts. He pitched 100 in 100 innings in the third. He had a whip of 1.037 and a FIP of 3.12. He had an ERA plus of 124. Limited the home runs, limited the walks, had a really good strikeout percentage. So really good numbers there in 22. 23, probably one of his better seasons as well. He was 10-10, had a 3.58 ERA, pitched in 32 games, threw 178 and two-thirds innings. He had a ERA plus of 131, had a FIP of 355, had a WHIP of 1.215. Same thing, limited the home runs, limited the walks, had a very good strikeout rate per 9, and overall it was pretty good numbers. But then you go into last year, he was 3-6, had a 5 ERA, only pitched in 12 games. He only pitched in 66 innings, had a ERA plus of 91, and the numbers just didn't really look good from there. His WHIP was still pretty solid, minding the fact right there the strikeout numbers definitely went down, still limited the home runs, still limited the walks, but overall things didn't really go as well for him last year, and definitely because he dealt with some itch situations last year, which basically sidetracked his entire season and really affected those numbers. But Jesus Luzardo definitely has proven he could be a really capable starter in a rotation in Major League Baseball, and he was a really good starter for a couple of years. And I do think this is a really good move for the Philadelphia Phillies, just judging this move, not judging the entire whole of an offseason, just judging this specific move, because there's still plenty of other things this team needs to do, even though I still don't know if they're going to be making those moves. Because Dave Dombrowski, like I said the other day, really didn't sound like they were going to make any more major signings or be major players in anything, and then this just literally comes out of the blue. So I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what the direction is. It's basically just a wait and see process, because you see Phillies in rumors for some of these other guys, and then when they do make a move, it's for a guy that they haven't been rumored in at all. So it was like with the Jordan Romano signing. You had no clue that the Phillies were even in on Jordan Romano until Jim Salisbury posted that they were signing him like 5 minutes right before it happened. And then the same thing with Max Kepler. You didn't know anything until like 10 minutes before it happened. And this was basically the same thing. You didn't know anything about the Phillies being inquiring about Jesus Luzardo right before it happened. So maybe that's just, the plan or something like that, to where the Phillies really don't let things out of house, to where, maybe some things they just, lead things astray to make you think something else. I don't know. I don't know whatsoever. But like I said, just judging this move off of face value, it's a good move. It is a good move for your starting rotation because, like I said, Zach Wheeler, your number one. Aaron Nola, your number two. Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, Jesus Luzardo. That is a very good starting five in baseball. And if you want to mix up the lefties in the rotation, you could go Zach Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, or Ranger Suarez as the two, Aaron Nola as the three, Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez as the four, and Jesus Luzardo as your five. And that is a very good starting rotation in Major League Baseball. A lot of Phillies fans love the trade, and rightfully so. And it's probably also some of the fact that the Phillies actually made a move and actually made a significant move for the rotation. So even though most of the moves they need to make and changes should be with the lineup, but I can't complain about getting another starting pitcher that can take Taijuan Walker out of the rotation. And this definitely does show to me that Andrew Painter most likely will be pitching in AAA for a majority of the season, and probably will be, a late season call up or a mid season call up, whatever, happens in that case. But, whatever you have, whenever you have the chance to prevent Taijuan Walker from being in your starting rotation, I will take that any day of the week. So that's a positive on that fact. So, hey, it's a good move. And looking at the entire trade as a whole, you only gave up two prospects. You gave up Starling Caba, who was one of your shortstop prospects, one of your top shortstop prospects, but he's 19 years old. He's playing in the very low stages of minor league baseball. He's going to be blocked for years to come, especially, with Aiden Miller and stuff like that, Trey Turner, Bryson Stott. You weren't going to see this guy for a while. And then you also traded an outfielder, Marion Boyd, to the Marlins to get Luzardo. I think the Phillies also got like some type of minor league catcher in return for the deal, which is really nothing substantial in that fact. It was just an extra player that I guess Miami decided to add on to the deal. So overall, the main package was just to get Jesus Luzardo. The minor league catcher was just a throw-in type of piece there. So Gaba, you know, to get a caliber pitcher like Luzardo, they were going to have to give up a prospect most likely. And with the Miami Marlins, they're going into another rebuild of rebuild of rebuild. That's basically what that franchise does every 5 years. They have 1 year of competitiveness, and then they completely blow it up and sell everything and try to build up the farm. And then they have 1 year of competitiveness, and then they do it all over again. That's been the cycle of the Miami Marlins for years and years and years, and they're doing it once again. I wouldn't be shocked if they trade Sandy Alcantara once again at the trade deadline, especially when he comes back from his Tommy John surgery and maybe provides some value for them. I wouldn't be shocked if they find a way to trade some other guys off their roster, because that's just what Miami does at the end of the day, and that's exactly what they did with Jesus Luzardo. So overall, yeah, it's a fine trade. I really can't complain anything else about it, because overall I think it's a very good trade. That's basically what it is. I don't think there's really anything else that you can judge about this in terms of this, but overall I still think in regards to this Phillies offseason is definitely nowhere close as to enough. But like I said, I'm just judging this trade based off the face value of the trade alone and not the entirety of the lack of moves that the Phillies have made this offseason because obviously signing Jordan Romano, signing Max Kepler, and trading for Jesus Luzardo definitely is nowhere near enough. I like the trade of Jesus Luzardo. I think it makes your rotation even deeper than it already was, especially when you throw away Taiwan Walker out of the rotation. Now, will they find a way to move Taiwan Walker just to dump his salary somewhere? I have no idea. Maybe that could be the case. And we'll have to wait and see what goes on. And for terms, a lot of people did like to bring up about this trade, about what it means for Ranger Suarez. I don't know what this specifically means because he does have one more year left on his contract. He's going to be a free agent after this year. He also just, I think it was recently announced that he is a Scott Boras client now. So he probably 100% is going to be tested in the open market if the Phillies don't offer him a contract extension. And we'll see where it goes from there. I know Jesus Luzardo has 2 more years of control left on his deal. He's 27 years old, so there's some control with that contract with Luzardo. So in terms of Ranger, I would assume the Phillies would prioritize keeping him. I'm not sure if they would move him, whether that's something that is done during the offseason, whether that's something that's done during the trade deadline, if they know they can't, get an extension with him and they just don't want to lose him for anything. But I think they'd be more entwined to keep him in the rotation just because I think it makes your rotation even better. I think when Ranger Suarez is healthy and is pitching to his capabilities, he can be one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball. He did prove that in the first half last year before he dealt with injuries and dead arm. So we'll see where that continues with them. Jesus Luzardo, just looking at his stats as well, hasn't really pitched that deep in the seasons. His deepest season was 2023, where he pitched in 178 innings. 2022, he only pitched in 100 innings, and those basically were his 2 longest seasons of his entire career. But he has shown that he can pitch deep into his season. And Ranger Suarez has as well, but not, Ranger hasn't eclipsed 170 plus innings. I believe Ranger has done 150 plus innings twice. But still, I'm not trying to knock Ranger in the fact at all here because Luzardo was only done it once. So there's definitely something to prove on that fact, but Luzardo, from what we have seen him, pitching for Miami, especially against the Phillies, he does have a really good fastball. And the one thing that I did see in terms of like scouting reports and all that stuff, specifically, since he was traded over here, that his off-speed pitches do need some work, and that is something that Caleb Cotham, Phillies pitching coach, does really, well with a lot of pitchers that come over to Philadelphia and look how to fix their arsenal or tweak some things in their pitching wise. So there's a lot of pitchers that you could say that Caleb Cotham has done wonders for in this, Phillies organization. Look what happened with Zach Wheeler coming here. Aaron Nola continues to be really good. I'm sure he's done some things with Ranger Suarez. I'm sure he's definitely helped Christopher Sanchez in that fact. Look at some of the guys that are in the bullpen, Jose Alvarado with all the things that they reshaped him into. Jeff Hoffman specifically as well, even though I'm not sure if Jeff Hoffman's even going to be a Philly next year. Most likely that's not going to be the case. But there's also a lot of other people in that bullpen that have come and gone that have definitely seen the benefits of Caleb Cotham, and he still is one of the better pitching coaches in Major League Baseball. So that is something to look at right there. And I'm sure that, if you put Jesus Luzardo into Caleb Cotham's pitching school, but basically you could say, could you compare Caleb Cotham to Jeff Stoutland? Jeff Stoutland University with the way Caleb Cotham works with pitchers. Maybe not to that extent. I'm just looking too deep into things. I'm just trying to look at this more in a positive sense because I really have been shit talking on the Phillies for the past few videos at this point, and it's really well deserved. And I really don't want to make this video a focus on just like harping on them the entirety because overall this is a good trade, and I do think this really improves your rotation mightily because it definitely makes it a way deeper rotation because last year you had a good 1 through 4 and then you punted every fifth day. Now, if you add Luzardo into that rotation, health pending wise and all that stuff, you don't have to punt every fifth day. You have a deeper rotation, and that makes your rotation better because of it. And 1 through 4, your rotation was one of the best rotations in baseball last year. And now that you're not punting every fifth day, they could be one of the better rotations, one of the best rotations in baseball. So there's nothing to complain about there. Like I said, I don't, there's no reason to complain about getting extra starting pitching depth. I don't think there's a problem with that in the world. So it definitely isn't a risk whatsoever, in my personal opinion. And the same thing with the prospect. I'm fine giving up Starling Kappa. He's one of the, he is one of the top prospects in the organization, but obviously he's not as highly ranked as Miller, Painter and all that stuff. So definitely, it's definitely a worthy prospect to get rid of and everything like that. Because, like I said, he is blocked for the foreseeable future with Aiden Miller, because the Phillies most likely aren't trading him with Trey Turner, with Bryson Stott, and all that stuff. Obviously, he's blocked, and you're not going to see him for a very long time. So he definitely is a prospect that you can trade away for other help. But I don't know, in terms of other moves, what the Phillies are going to do the rest of this offseason, because I really just can't gauge them. I can't. Because they say one thing, and then they turn around and they trade for a pitcher. But it still doesn't feel like they're out there for big names whatsoever. So I don't know if they're going to make any other moves in terms of improving the lineup. Because when I see, all these rumors out there, and then you see the Phillies are tied to some of these people. They're tied to, Kyle Tucker, the whole Kyle Tucker nonsense with, trying to trade Alec Bowman and Castellanos to Houston Astros to get Kyle Tucker. But then when they do make moves, it's completely out of left field, and you haven't heard a peep of rumor from those specific moves. Specifically with Jordan Morano, same thing with Max Kepler, and the same thing with Jesus Luzardo. There was nothing that you heard from this. It just came out at random. So, are those rumors that the Phillies are just tied to, quote unquote, just hearsay? And really everything that they do and are thinking of and what they're trying to do, they keep in-house, and they really don't, and they just tell reporters to say these things? Maybe that could be the case. Maybe that's the way Dave Dombrowski operates. I have no idea. But overall, offseason wise, just this specific move, I think it's a good move. But for the entirety of the offseason, it's still not enough. 100%. Your lineup's still the same. Your approach is still going to be the same unless something drastically changes. And like I said, they're not going to be making any moves at this point now with the holidays upcoming. And I don't, there's still January, there's still February and all that stuff. There's still some other free agents out there that are not signed yet. So we'll definitely see where that goes from here. But I guess it's just a wait and see game. I guess it is, because like I said, when the Phillies have been making moves this offseason, it comes out of left field. And you don't see any rumors tied to it. So I guess that's just the way they operate. All the other rumors are just hearsay, and you don't know. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But we do have a voicemail here. Before we end it off, this voicemail did came in yesterday morning when the trade happened. It is from Sean. So I did want to try to talk about it yesterday, but there was so much focus down with the Eagles and all that stuff with the way the game was yesterday. I just wasn't able to get to it last night. So I figured I just recorded this afternoon, posted this evening whenever you are viewing this, and yeah, that's basically it right there. So I definitely wasn't trying to do this tonight. Try to get this done in the afternoon and just schedule it out for you guys later in the evening whenever you're chilling and all that stuff, able to watch YouTube and all that. So it's basically where I am. So hello from the past to the people that are watching in the present. Oh God, I'll shut up now. Let's get to Sean.
Now, I'm banking on you doing a video about this trade, so I'll give you my thoughts. First of all, hey, Dave Dombrowski just gave a middle finger to all the fans that were calling him asleep at the wheel, et cetera, et cetera. Personally, I think this is a great deal. I mean, Jesus Luzardo, I believe, is still relatively young, left-handed, and I think it allows the Phillies now to pursue moving Ranger Suarez in a subsequent deal. Not to mention the fact that in the games he's pitched against the Phillies, I think he's had a little bit of success. You didn't have to give up an Aiden Miller or a Tyee or Crawford to get him. You got to give to get, but to get a mid-20s left-handed pitcher with that upside, great move. I mean, what else will they do? I don't know. But I think people need to pump the brakes a little on Dombrowski and what he hasn't been doing. I think the Phillies are a little handcuffed on a number of fronts in terms of making trades, but this one on the surface looks pretty damn good to me.
Oh yeah, In terms of this trade, it definitely is a very good trade. I will give credit to Dave Dombrowski on that front. I think right now, just in terms of everyone harping on Dave Dombrowski, including myself, we just want change. We're just tired of the way the team and the offense has been constructed in the same approach for the past couple of seasons, and just seeing the way this team has been, you know, on a downward spiral just in the playoffs, for the past couple of years, losing in the World Series, losing in the NLCS, losing in the NLDS, basically in a replication of what the 2007 through 11 team was. They start 2007 in the NLDS, then they win the World Series, they lose the World Series, they lose in the NLCS, and then they lose in the NLDS. I think fans are just scared of that type of outcome. And yes, I do think Dave Dombrowski is trying to get the longevity out of the Bryce Harper contract and trying to remain competitive through the Bryce Harper contract and all that stuff, which is the 100% the smart thing to do. But I think it's just people that they just want change. They just want to see a call to action, a facelift of the roster, because obviously your face of the lineup is still going to be Bryce Harper. It's still going to be Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber for this year. But if you could find a way to interchange from maybe a Nick Castellanos, from a Brandon Marsh, from an Alec Boehm, or maybe even from a JT Realmuto, you can find a way to make a facelift there and, change, your type of hitters and change your identity as a lineup. I think that's where people really want the change from. And I don't know if you could have done that in one off season. Obviously, that's physically impossible to do that in all one off season. But I think it's just, like I said, including myself, I think we're so tired of the way the team has collapsed the past few years that we just don't want to see the same thing again and expect different results. And yeah, maybe your hands are tied in that fact, but you put yourself in that fact. So it's your responsibility to find your way out of it. So like I said, we'll definitely see how the rest of the offseason does progress. Like I said, the this move basically came out of the blue. So maybe that's just the way the Phillies operate. All the other rumors are hearsay, and when they're actually making a move, you won't expect it. So we'll see how everything progresses here. Well, it definitely will. But in terms of other videos for today, there definitely won't be. I don't think I'm doing a Flyers recap tonight, just because holidays and all that stuff. Maybe I will do a Flyers recap, so I'm not entirely sure. It's basically just waiting and see what happens with the way the game is tonight. If the Flyers get blown out and the game's ugly, I'm obviously not doing a recap. But if they do win, maybe I'll do something with tonight's game against Pittsburgh. But we'll see. We'll see on that front. But if I don't get to a video tonight, I definitely want to get this out. Merry Christmas to all you guys that do, celebrate it and everything out there. Enjoy your time with your families, your friends, your loved ones, however you choose to celebrate it. Hopefully you do have a good, holiday indeed. And we will reconvene if we don't do another video tonight. We will reconvene, after the Christmas and, focusing on, anything that happens in the later part of the week, getting towards, Eagles Cowboys that has been moved to 1 o'clock on Sunday. So yeah, just definitely stay tuned for something. You'll see something pop up in your subscription feed. But for now, I appreciate you guys for tuning in as always. Hopefully everyone here has a very good holiday, a couple of days here upcoming. And yeah, just enjoy it. So don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to drop a like. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Does me a great deal of service. And also use the code TTPSPORTS. $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Great deal. Do not pass it up. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you guys have a good holiday. I'll see you next time.